real time travel. How do you talk about this? Everybody thinks you're crazy. It's like thinking that you can prove aliens exist. But, so, I don't even know how to make a video about it, other than explaining it on this. So isn't this that PBS guy? No, I have no idea what this is. I haven't watched it. I don't need to watch it. So, time travel to a perceptive past is still linear in time, because in my physics theory, T equals C, as I explained in other videos, that it's always in one direction. It's just that taking my finger from here to here and my finger from here to here are still in the future. Yes, we have atomic decay and all these other particle coefficients. It's just that who is to say that my finger moving to here and moving it back to here isn't time travel? And that's a really, really simplified version of it, moving from point A to point B. And then you have to think about, I don't know if I can do this with my fingers, but difference of acceleration. So as I spread my fingers out, one finger is moving slower than the other. And so the energy of the equation for relativity has to be compiled. And just to initiate the return of separate particles from point A to point B back into their initial states is so much energy. I mean, like you have to bring it to a standstill. So that takes the amount of energy that was put into it. And then, based on your time coefficient, to return this energy back to its initial point, as all particles are relative to the exact same acceleration that they initially had, it takes so much energy that the universe doesn't have. It's like two universes, essentially. So if we could travel back in time, you would be using an entire other universe. I mean, so isolating the event is something I bring up in this. That's why I was pointing this out. And I don't think I have any other drawings other than my crazy equation board. I'm gonna get that. I'll get that real quick. So, oh Jesus. This thing. And we'll get into quantum probability to cognitive probability, but this is my original attempt at writing an equation for T equals C. And time is a pure constant. I think I mentioned that in another video. So what we have here is a interpretation of paradox, that when I believe that's for equivalence, that's for relative structures, and how when infinity is relative to 0, it's equivalent to 1, and that's a fundamental value. And when 1 is relative to 0, it is equivalent to infinity, which is another fundamental limit. It's like a fundamental value, but it's a fundamental limit. And yes, you're gonna laugh at those up there because I have forgotten a few laws of algebra. But when you divide E equals mc squared mass, the reason why C has to be squared, and it's nothing to do with graph structure, is so that energy cannot reach zero. Mass cannot reach zero. That way we can't have mass without energy and energy without mass. It just doesn't make any sense. You can have fundamental limits. So if you understand that philosophically, then you'll understand that and what that says. And so this is my attempt at analyzing the paradoxical structures of reality to unify relativity with equivalence. And like they always say, a lot of philosophy is just pointing out the obvious. It really is. And it might be obvious to look at modern algebra and see relativity unified to equivalence just by equations, because the equal sign and the variables and how they give and take are all relative to equivalence. Anyway, what this has to do with time travel is me explaining that it is plausible, and there are different ways I've theorized it. It's just not worth it. It really isn't. It doesn't matter what you think you need. You're being selfish. And what you think needs to change, you're being selfish. Now, whether we're fighting extinction or other aspects, that brings into account selflessness, which through every choice is a paradox. So obviously there would be a mirror format of it because of that. It's just and basic algebra too proves that philosophically, because you can exchange E and M, and you can have a square root of mass that will never reach zero, so that energy and velocity can reach zero to equal the square root of mass, which is nothing. Absolute nothingness. So I know this board's a little crazy. I really don't give a flying fuck what you think. And anyway, that's similar to matrices. It's just I forgot a lot of rules of algebra, so my math has gone way downhill. But this is one way to look at binary in a different perception. To 5 divided by 1. How many ones can go into 5? 5 divided by 0. How many zeros can go into 5? There are no zeros. I mean, 0 is nothing, so nothing can go into 5 an infinite amount of time, which is relative to 0. 5 times 0. Well, I mean, there's still 5, so 5 is equivalent to 0. Right? Well, 5 is the plus 1. I don't remember that point. This thing is 6 years old, so 0 divided by 5 is 1, it all creates the probable structures. And to create time, while in philosophy, What is time? When you look at it mathematically, math has just contaminated physics so heavily that you can't be a physicist without being a mathematician. It's fucking ridiculous to me. I hate it. Never approved of it. I mean, it's like playing pool and you're just like, well, I just can't do it without the geometry, and yet for some reason I can still curve a pool ball. And I've made plenty of Mass A's, dude. I'm fucking good at pool. It's just, I can run tables all day if I want to. I'm not consistent. And the fact is, the felt isn't consistent. The humidity isn't consistent. It has little to do with math and a lot to do with feel. And you can create a mathematical system to predict the probability. It always goes back into that concept that no matter how probable you are, we really can always make a mistake. And so time travel, when you travel back in time, though it is linear, you're using, oh golly, so much energy. There's so much energy involved that it's really just, there's a lot to say. There's so much energy and there's so much universe, and if we can biometrically stabilize and create, well, not even going into the little time travel devices and all the things I've fantasized, so that I can be selfish, so I can go back and love some girl again, or just, what else do we have to live for, right? It's not infinite power. Everything is derived around love to the cognitive mind. That's our thesos. Except it's diversity. There's three legs to every concept. So, and there's a third one, chaos or liberty, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't fucking matter. People don't think like me. And maybe I wrote those backwards. I don't know. I don't care. It would seem that I wrote them backwards. But then relativity has limits. Relativity is variable by variable. Equivalence is stringent without limitations. That should be up right there. But what else is there? There's so much going on in my brain. You've no idea. And I keep it all under wraps and control, and people think I'm insane. It's just, I'm really not. Probably the sanest person I think I've ever conceptualized. I don't know how to consider sanity other than as not being a hive mentality. What's normal? You look at an ant colony, you look at a beehive, and what is normal is under the directive of the queen. It's pathetic. That's not cognitive. That's not self-aware. And I discovered the 3 traits of self-awareness through philosophy, and many roads lead to the same conclusions. So through that is an infinite potential for all of us to not simply be so selfish to pursue time travel. Time travel is plausible in various technologies that I've derived, as I said, in my pursuits of selfishness and madness, I guess, to some. Who cares? I have so many distractions,
so many things that I like to do or pursue or just talk about, I guess. And what else is life, right? What the fuck else is it if it isn't feeling, if it isn't experiencing, if it isn't remembering? Why the hell do we have all these abilities? You really want to give that up and pretend you aren't human? I really don't think we do. I just understand that if you know the future, or if you know your past, then you know your future and you know where it can lead, or it's a generic lesson in history class, but it has validity. And humbly so, shall we all just accept our mistakes, get over it, move on. Because the energy it takes is, do we really want to move on to contaminate all of existence to our own fucking selfishness? It's a virus is what it is. It's a plague. Hypocrisy is a plague on the cognitive mind. And sure, I used to romanticize about Plato and Aristotle and especially Socrates. And that I have never even read them. I've read, oh gosh, I can't believe I forgot the name of it. His argument about Socrates' argument for and against religious nature, piousness, piety, there you go. And I used to know the name. That's one of my favorite arguments. It's so brilliant. Very influential in my life. And that's when I shut it all out. Because, let's see, I expanded Plato's Cave. Then I wrote the theory of 1 versus 100. That's not a theory, it's an analogy. I guess we could get into that, why not? Okay, the expansion of Plato's Cave. You know Plato's Cave, so you expand it. You create a network of caves. Different rooms with only one singular exit. And so, instead of simply releasing one person, that person can leave, find the exit, or they can find many more rooms. Each room with their own trap, leaving you locked in it. And say, for the given good of my argument here is, I'm not going to analyze all the variables. I've had some brandy. It's just that to find the exit of any cave requires the path of one wall. The right wall, or the left, it doesn't really matter. And directive-wise, there's one wall that finds an exit, and one person could use this knowledge, this analysis, this creativity to find their exit and find reality, and then you exit the cave, and this is where my expansion starts. You re-enter the cave. You are humilitus. You want to free the rest and show them that feeling you had. And that's where your opportunity of manipulation and control comes in. And this is why I dropped out of college. I dropped out of school. One reason, anyway. among others, to pursue pure philosophy, and I was thankfully allowed to do that. Anyway, so the expansion, you go back in the cave, you can free as many people as you want, you can lead them, guide them, or let them wander. But the answer to this state of reality is guiding out of said cave. Knowing that you can let somebody wander, or you can find other people that might understand that one wall leads to the exit. And so eventually you lead them to the exit, and you get to decide how that reality feels for them as an overlying, colorful ideal. You are the leader, you are the guidance, you are the creator, and all this other jazz. There's so many things that you can analyze from it, and I don't like to control thought because of this expansion of Plato's Cave. I always try to inspire thought, and that is the job of a philosopher. People want to be led out of the cave, and I refuse. 1 versus 100 and how that correlates to... Well, actually, the true title is 1 versus 100, the value of self-righteousness and self-indulgence, a paradox, and the fundamental paradox to my paradox philosophy that I discovered. Not my personal paradox, there's paradox behind every choice. It's just that is a form of philosophy, it's paradox philosophy. And it is very complicated. I mean, I am not intelligent enough. I can't wait for the third philosopher. He's going to be brilliant. No idea what he's going to be capable of to analyze the 11 dimensions of philosophy and paradox. However, I have only found 6 or 7 depths to paradoxes within paradoxes. Anyway, 1 versus 100, the value of self-righteousness versus self-indulgence. It's quite a thing. Don't you just love being me? God, such a beautiful snowfall today. Just beautiful. One of my favorite memories is of Mannheim Steamrollers' Christmas. Well, they all wrote Christmas music. There's an album with a tree, a pine tree covered in snow, and that's what it looks like outside. And that's why it's so comforting, I think, here. So peaceful. That image is stuck in my mind forever, since I was 4 years old. Anyway, you can tell I am self-righteous and self-indulged. Hypocrisy shall consume us all. There is no escape of it, thanks to paradoxes. But you live with it. See, luckily, we have 2 hemispheres in our brains. A lot of people are hemispherical. They cater to one. That is a derivative and a lack of self-awareness. Anyway, one man, he is self-righteous, he is self-indulged. However, he needs no followers. He accepts hate. There are 100 guided by a leader. those guided out of said cave, each leader their own, with one singular difference. One has followers to define himself, and the other does not. The one is self-righteous. The 100 are guided by a justification for self-righteousness. Each are self-indulged, and though, where was I going? Shit, I wrote this in 2011, and I've never read it again. I still know how to. Sorry, we ignore that part of my brain. He's a bit of a booger. Derails my everything. And most beautiful snowfall today. So though each are self-righteous and self-indulged, the one knows that there is a singular difference between the leader who defines himself by those who follow his righteousness to justify his self-indulgence. That the one alone, given enough time, given enough probability, given enough people, will meet other versions like him, and they will unify unanimously on their own, and they will become the 100. Except they are not leaders. They are not guided. They are themselves. And that is a beautiful philosophy that prospers into turning every life into an art form. And it's not just that. There's a lot to say. See, I don't like controlling thought. It's just, I'm trying to stick to that older work I did and what spawned me becoming a philosopher, so that I hope other people can find it naturally in a way without guidance. It's all through paradox. All through paradox. Because behind every choice is a paradox. So when we choose, then we offset to these different dimensions of paradoxes that we can complicate, and many roads lead to the same conclusion. So when you mirror a paradox, then you end up at the root of a choice. Philosophy is very complicated, extraordinarily so. It doesn't bother me. I love it. However, it leaves you very lonely in a world like this, because there's no one else like you, and you hope so deeply that one versus the 100 is just going to naturally meet these beautiful people like you, because you are self-indulged and you are self-righteous, that you hope there are going to be other fucking freaks like you. Man, I'm out of it. I'm so tired of running out of alcohol. The value of the self-righteous versus the self-indulged is that when you look at the ant colony and you look at the beehive, they are the 100, the base. But you can be the one that creates 100. And that is the value of philosophy, pure and true. Though it is self-righteous and self-indulged, we have 3 states of self-awareness. And this video started off about me talking about time travel. Who knew I would get into this crap? Sorry, it's not crap, it's just... lonely. Very lonely. It really is. But what do you expect? I question myself this all the time. What the fuck do I expect? I mean, I really don't know. Love, wealth, humanity, followers, audience. I'm incapable of caring about anything because of how I trained my brain and formatted everything to such a beautiful snowfall today. Back to time travel. The square root of E divided by the square root of mass is equal to C. So then, the square root of energy divided by the square root of C, or no, square root of energy divided by C is equal to the square root of M. A square rooted number cannot reach 0. It's impossible. So for reality to exist, it can never... Jeez. I'm not even moving. I don't know why this keeps falling. I'm not supposed to post this video probably, but well, in 1,000 years, 2,000 years, what year is it, 2021? And Socrates lived, what, 500 BC or something like that? In 2,000 years, we're still 2,500 years. We are still influenced by history, manipulated by it, controlled by it, guided by it, and you can't escape that paradox. It's impossible. It's human nature that we all evolve and adapt by genetic traits. And weather alone even. So when you look at the square root of E divided by C, to equal M, if we say square root of mass is 1, as we know from that the number theory of a constant must equate to 1 over the square root of E. No, sorry, constant is under the square root of E, right? Since E equals 1 and 1 equals m1, then C must equal 1. And how do we derive time? Distance divided by velocity, or velocity divided by distance. It doesn't really fucking matter. It's all the same shit. Sorry, I'm not insulting it. It's just I'm explaining why T equals C. And time is a true and pure constant. So there's a lot to think about. I mean, there's so much to think about. You gotta have a strong foundation in philosophy. So mass times energy equals C, right? Or energy divided by mass equals C squared. That's right. So to travel back in time takes an exceptional amount of energy. Mass times velocity squared. Well, you have to then, equate. So you divide by C squared. And then you multiply by C squared. So it's squared. I don't even know. I don't have my marker. What would that be? That would be an immense amount of energy. I mean, we're talking a ton of energy. Alright, so if C squared equals time, then you would have to divide by C squared to equal T. Probable relative to 1. So that C equals 1. In that dividing by C equals 0, because if you take 1 and you remove 1, I guess it's C minus C. No, that's not. That's a 2. Equals 0, so this is relative. And then you have to reverse the process. So then you have to equate that to the similar structure. To reverse this, polarize it, essentially. Polarity, yeah! There you go. I bet that's what they mean by polarity. Crazy. Anyway, it's so complicated. Maybe not for you guys or other people. For me it is. It's just all I think about. It's been a fun life. What do you do, though? What do we do? There's a lot to think about. It never seems like enough. I know this is a weird way of thinking. It's just, that's how I think. And it allowed me to master billiards. I'm a hell of a good fucking pool player. I'm not consistent enough. I can run any table all day, every day. You know? I don't stop. It's just, I cannot shoot a hoop consistently. It takes me 3 tries to make a half court shot. It's always going to be that way. It's called clumsiness. $40 wow. Let's see, I think I made all my points. I think I talked about everything I want to talk about. What is the difference? So mathematically, dividing something by itself and minusing something by itself creates a relative structure. Now, equivalently, C divided by C is equal to 1, while C minus C is equal to 0. But I think I explained how this all makes sense, right? Breaking the laws of math or whatever. But you have to say this, you have to understand that when you have a fundamental value, 1 is the fundamental value. You can put it behind a decimal, you can put it in front of a decimal, it always gathers, it always reduces. That's what we use, is 1. We use parts of 1, which are parts of 1, which are parts of 1, and it's always just 1. 1 is the fundamental value. There's 1s and 0s. So, when you look at reality like that, and you equate time to 1, it's always just a derivative. What do you want to equate it to? What do you want to create a relative consistency for? How does it all exist, and why is it a paradox? And I use the triangles or the zigzags for this reason. It's meant to just be arrows. Or you could draw them on the points. Whatever, it doesn't fucking matter to me. I always look at it like trying to form a straight line. Everything wants to be a straight line, but it can't exist. There are no straight lines. They're impossible. You can only have curves. Nothing is ever straight. So, these straight lines are our fucking limits. I'm gonna end it there.